Tonight on Joy News Prime, many people rendered jobless as government organizes quick survey to gather figures on vulnerabilities in Accra. Joy News brings you a personal story of lady struggling to put food on her table.
The times are not good at all. I used to get paid for washing services just a few months ago. Even friends turn me away now. I can barely take care of my children.
Konfo Teaching Hospital blood bank runs dry as people shun donation in this time of COVID-19.
We aim to have between 250 to 300 donors coming up. But as we speak, today we've had only 7 donors coming.
Meanwhile, part of Kolebu Polyclinic close to admission as frontline workers are infected with COVID-19. And in business, Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders expresses disappointment in management of current disruptions at Temaport polling rollout of Unipass.
We were expecting that by close of day we would have had these units running so that at least they run the power process which were promised. But having said that, basically, it's very disappointing.
AMA environmental health officers lock up 5 shops at the Kaneshie market for failing to observe any of the protocols introduced to curb the spread of coronavirus.
For you not having the Veronica bucket at this point, at this time, no sanitizer. You have to come out. You have sanitizer, so it's in your bag. So if customers come, they have to come to your bag to take it. Master, pick off the electrical joggers all off and come out. We'll close the place.
I'm Israel Lai, anchoring from home, and remember, Joy News Prime is live on digital terrestrial TV because we're free to air.
And my name is Aisha Ibrahim, coming to you live from our studios in Kokomlimle on digital address DA0992539, also on GoTV channel 144 and DSTV channel 421.
She traveled from Kumasi to Accra more than a decade ago in search of greener pastures and settled at New Fadama, where she moved from house to house, doing laundry for people to earn some money to take care of her 2 daughters. But after the outbreak of COVID-19, Adwoa Jewa is now out of job, as none of her clients will allow her into their home. PSC Nane Asafo has gone to meet Adwoa Jewa, and here's her story.
Adwoa Jewa was one of the citizens who believed a partial lockdown in parts of the country was bad for business, although it was a necessary measure to prevent spread of a virus. Like many Ghanaians, she waited eagerly for the president's address on Sunday, 19th April 2020. The ban was lifted, but Jewa would face a hurdle. No client will admit her into their home. Everyone is being careful.
The times are not good at all. I used to get paid for washing services just a few months ago. Even friends turn me away now. I can barely take care of my children. Customers say now they've resorted to using washing machines. I used to earn as much as 400 cedis or 600 cedis in a week. It was not always guaranteed, but it was relatively better. All those funds were used in purchasing more soap for washing, taking care of myself and my daughter's education, and the basic needs, including sanitary pads.
She walks with me over to her sleeping place in New Fadama, a wooden structure sitting among a cluster of kiosks. The setup looks like it may cave in any time. Most of the room is covered with old dusty clothes, car spare parts, and rusty metals. Jewa shows me an old refrigerator in the corner on which her 2 daughters, Veronica, 18, and Juliana, 17, squeezed to sleep at night. When I asked about where she slept, she points at the ground.
I usually sleep on a piece of plywood. There it is now. We sometimes take turns between sleeping on the old refrigerator and here.
The structure has been home to Ajewa and her daughters for the past 12 years. It is originally a welder's shop, but serves as home when the workers leave each day at about 7 p.m. Despite living in what appears to be poverty, an abandonment by husband Ajewa says never cared much for her anyway. She has been determined to work hard to take care of herself and her daughters.
I want to be a banker.
Veronica Kunedu is the first of Ajewa's daughters. She is a senior high school graduate, brilliant from my engagement with her, but had no idea what her WASSCE results were. She had been blocked from accessing it due to her outstanding school fees.
This is Marjorie bringing you the news today. We have just received reports of major pandemic sweeping across the globe. It is quite scary.
Juliana, the last child, aspires to be a journalist someday.
I would like the elders of my daughters to continue her education, but I cannot help her. I'm out of job now, with no financial backing as it is. It will be almost impossible to send the younger one back to school, even when the ban on schools is lifted. I'm not worried as much about where we sleep. I think I'm getting used to it.
With mouths to feed, dreams to support, and barely nothing in her account, Ajewa sits with a neighbor in the girls, discussing life and its meaning somewhere in New Fadama. For her, life is not easy. Life with COVID-19 has been worse. Tomorrow is just another day, but what it comes with is unknown. PC Nanaya Osafo, Joy News.
Now, the Ghana National Household Registry on Tuesday began an emergency data collection exercise on the poor and vulnerable in the Greater Accra region. The outfit, under the Ministry of Gender and Social Protection, is mandated to compile appropriate data on the poor and needy for social protection programs. The National Coordinator for GNHR, Dr. Prosper B. Larry, joins us via Zoom for more. Now, thank you very much for making time to speak with us. Now, what has necessitated this data collection exercise in Accra, and why the name Emergency Data Collection Exercise? All right, it appears Mr. Larry can't hear, but I'd like to repeat the question. Mr. Larry, or Dr. Larry, sorry, what has necessitated this data collection exercise in Accra, and why the name Emergency Data Collection Exercise? All right, we would have to fix the connection there and bring you that story later, Aisha. Now, joining us is learning at least 10 frontline workers at the Korle Bu Teaching Hospital and Korle Polyclinic have tested positive for COVID-19, a situation that was earlier reported to have led to total shutdown of the Korle Bu Polyclinic. However, our checks at the clinic on Wednesday reveal portions of the facility have been cordoned off, with OPD services still in operation. Nancy Emefa was there and reports.
We are at the Korle Bu Polyclinic, where earlier we understood that some staff numbering about 10 had been infected with COVID and that the place had been closed down. In fact, when we got here, we still realized that some portions of the facility had been cordoned off. You can see that from the accountant side has been closed down. Well, yes, the OPD section, part of the OPD section is still in operations. You've seen people trooping in there. Now, what we do understand is that they are not accepting admissions into the facility because of the incident that happened. I have been trying to speak to the public relations officer who has been tight-lipped on the matter, except to say that the places had been closed down just to disinfect the place, but they are back to business, and that the places that have been left open is just for people to observe the various protocols, social distancing protocols, and so the facility is back in full operation. That is what we have been told. Meanwhile, from our checks here, and it appears some section is still under lock and key. Reporting from the Korle Bu Polyclinic, I am Nancy Emefa Jodosi.
Blood donor organizers are going through perhaps the most difficult period of mobilizing the life-saving commodity due to the coronavirus pandemic. Not even the lifting of the partial lockdown has eased the struggle of blood bank officials at the Komfo Anokye Teaching Hospital to attract donors in their efforts to replenish and maintain stocks. Nana Asenso Mensah has more in the following report.
So on a normal mobilization day, that is the partnership between Multimedia Kumasi and Komfo Anokye Teaching Hospital, brings donors to give at least
65 to 70 pints of blood in quarterly initiative. But now the story is different because blood donors organizers have been spending hours daily here at the forecourt of Multimedia Kumasi, that is Love FM and Insha FM, only to realize 7 to 8 pints every day. Though officials have been hopeful the lifting of the lockdown would attract better responses, expected improvement has been marginal. Christian Opon-Mensah is Deputy Chief Blood Donor Manager at Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital.
Whenever we used to, before the COVID-19, we used to organize blood donation with Love FM, at least we tend to have between 250 to 300 donors coming up. But as we speak, today we've had only 7 donors coming. A lot of our donors, I think, fear to come out to donate. In fact, we used to transfuse patients, those in Komfo-Anokye and those outside Komfo-Anokye, because district hospital and private hospital depend on the blood bank of Komfo-Anokye for blood. We used to at least transfuse or issue blood at least about 70 units of blood a day. But as we speak, though the demand for blood has fallen to around 35 to 40, by the supply right now is not meeting the demand. As we speak with the COVID-19 scenario, we are not getting enough blood as compared to the demand for blood at the hospital.
Meanwhile, Jackson Education Complex in Kumasi has reached out to the blood bank in such difficult times, together with the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research. The two institutions received 25,000 Ghana cedis, with KCCR bagging 20,000 of the amount. Theodosia Jackson is Chief Executive of Jackson Education Complex.
This second donation is to the blood bank at Komfo-Anokye Hospital. Love FM made me aware. In fact, over the years, I have been advocating, appealing to people to donate blood to hospitals. So this year, they made me aware the season is up. But unfortunately, the banks are depleted with blood. So quickly, something has to be done. And he made me aware that the representative from Love FM made me aware that because of the lockdown, they need money for transportation for the donors. So we decided to just contribute our quota to help in this direction, because blood is life. And assuming someone goes to deliver and the person needs blood, the person will die. Someone has been involved in an accident and that person needs blood. It's not the accident that will kill, but the person will die.
Nana Asensu-Mensah reporting for Joy News.
You're watching Joy News Farming. We're returning to our earlier story, which has to do with the case of vulnerabilities of the vulnerable people in the Greater Accra region. The Ghana National Household Registry on Tuesday began an emergency data collection exercise on the poor and vulnerable in the region. The outfit under the Ministry of Gender and Social Protection is mandated to compile appropriate data on the poor and needy for social protection programs. The National Coordinator, GNHR, Dr. Prosper Larry, has joined us via Zoom, and hopefully our connection is going to be a lot better now. Thank you very much once again. What has necessitated this data collection exercise in Accra, and why the name Emergency Data Collection Exercise?
Yeah, thank you very much. The Ghana National Household Registry, as you rightly said, we compile data for the poor and vulnerable. We should have done this in the northern region, having completed Upper East and Upper West. During the lockdown, we realized that a lot more people's socioeconomic status had moved, if not dipped, but their changes to their way of living had changed drastically. And so there was a need for us to update the GNHR database on the poor and vulnerable in Greater Accra so that we can increase transparency and accountability in the provision of relief services for the poor and vulnerable during this time. And also to be able to, beyond government, provide data to other public and private sector partners who are looking to support the poor and the vulnerable persons. You know, data from northern region, Savannah, and then northeast would have been that which would have had as of this April, because Upper East, Upper West, we have a very complete database. In terms of the poverty profile, we started with the three most poorest, which is Upper East, Upper West, and Northern region. Greater Accra would have been one that we have done at the latter parts of the year, but looking at the lockdown conditions and looking at issues of this COVID, we have come to do this database at such a time as this to be able to capture all the vulnerable groups.
All right, Dr. Larry, you talk about having to update the figures for Greater Accra region. It means that, or presupposes that you had data prior to that. What sort of data did you have on the vulnerable in Greater Accra region?
You know, we have had data because, you know, we have our social welfare, but the mandate of GNHR is not to really classify these groups, but to provide data, and such information is the one that is used for targeting. And so one of the things we seem to do is to pick a live data now. A lot of changes have taken place because of this disease. And, you know, most of the people are not people in households that you can easily trace. Some have migrated, some have moved. So we're sort of picking a live data at this point in time.
It sounds to me more like you really don't have the data, or you didn't have the data, and like you're now putting it together.
Yes, GNHR doesn't have data for Greater Accra. GNHR has completed data for Upper East, Upper West, and as I said, we were to go to Northern region. One of the approach we use that has made GNHR more efficient and as a center of targeting is that we do a census approach. So for Upper East and Upper West that is completed, each household was visited. And so once the data is complete, using the Proxy Means test, we are able to classify according to poor, non-poor, and extremely poor. So for Greater Accra, in terms of poverty profile, Greater Accra was not our first priority because of the cost of carrying out a census in the whole Greater Accra. But because of this COVID pandemic, that
Dr. Larry, I'd like you to hold on for me a bit, because I also have joining us via Zoom the country director of SEND Ghana, George Bimpe. Thank you very much, Mr. Bimpe. Are you surprised that the Ghana National Household Registry has no concrete figure on vulnerabilities in Accra?
No, Israel, I am not surprised. We have been following the work that they have been doing, and I must say that it's a very good initiative, but unfortunately, we did not follow through the work plan. I mean, when I say we, as a country, we did not follow through the work plan to commit resources to the Office of Prosper for them to have covered the whole country. So maybe we need to learn the lessons that if you want to, as a country, if we want to develop a very strong social protection system, you would need the data, and that you must invest in procuring that data. And I completely sympathize with my brother, because if they have had all the resources, I'm sure by this time they would have covered the whole country. I know how the program got stalled in terms of financial difficulties. I'm aware that the World Bank, for example, is going to support them to do, or is supporting them to do the Accra one. I am hoping that we learn a lesson from this, so that when the technocrats are working, we do not starve them with the resources and expect them to deliver. If we give them all the resources that they need, certainly they can deliver. And this is one clear case where, as a country, we failed to provide all the needed resources for them to do this. So that, I mean, all the agitation about people missing out, not getting the right people in terms of targeting would have been avoided. Israel, if you recall, the successes that the country is achieving with programs like LEAP is basically because of the application of the National Household Survey that Prosper talked about. And so as a country, we need to make sure that we invest in some of these essential information that helps us in planning and mitigating emergencies like this.
Mr. Bimpe, do hold on for me. Now, I'm coming to you, Dr. Larry. How long is it going to take for you to put together this data on Greater Accra?
you know, for now, because of the funding arrangement, like Mr. George Osei did mention, we concentrating right now on the vulnerable categories, and we have estimated about 101,000 persons. And within 2 weeks, we want to gather this information. As I said, if there was complete funding, we should be looking at census in which we can cover the entirety of Greater Accra. Because for Northern, Savannah, and Northeast, we are going to do a complete census for that place, just as has happened in Upper East and Upper West. So for this exercise, we are just zooming into some hotspot areas. We've zoned into about 8 categories to sweep the data across those places so that it will be ready for social protection programs to use.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Larry. But I'll come to you, Mr. Bimpe, for your final word. I want to know, what would you expect should happen, or what would you say should happen when this data is collected, especially in this COVID-19 era where the vulnerable are really vulnerable?
At least if there is one thing that we should commend the ministry is how they have utilized the existing data from Upper East and Upper West. And so we should expect that the expert will be allowed to use that information in determining who has to get what social support from the state. Having said that, Israel, I think that we need to make the call that once the technocrats are collecting this data, there are some people who critically need some form of assistance. And I think that we will need to find ways to rely on the social structures in those places to identify the critical, segment of the population who need immediate support, so that once the data collection exercise is going on, the country can find means to supporting these people, so that at least the hardship that some of them may be going through will be mitigated to some reasonable extent.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. George Bimpe. He's a country director of St. Ghana. Aisha, back to you in the studio.
And also in this bulletin, the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly has introduced new stickers to regulate the operation of commercial vehicles in the city central business district. The move is to decongest the city center by restricting entry to vehicles not recognized by transport unions as part of measures to contain the coronavirus pandemic. Kumasi Mayor Sibe Entry told union leaders at the outdooring of the stickers those who flout the rules under the new regime will be prosecuted. Erastus Asari Donko has more in this report.
Kumasi's congested trading hubs continue to attract transport operators who cause massive congestion, largely due to acts of indiscipline. The development is creating difficulty in human and vehicular movement in observance of safety protocols in the midst of COVID-19. The KMA wants to limit the number of trotro and taxis entering and loading at designated points. The Assembly, in collaboration with transport unions, has designed special stickers to identify commercial vehicles permitted to operate in the city center at any given time. Drivers will have to display the stickers designating them to ply specific routes. City Mayor Osei Sibe says the security agencies will from next week start enforcing the guidelines.
It has really come out that there are a group of people that do not want to work with law, and as such, anywhere that they found themselves, they want to do business with. And the monitoring team is to ensure that the worst offenders, that is those who go contrary to the traffic regulations, they will deal with them. Because they, by law, they have the right to be able to sanction them. So in moving around, even though the GPRT and their reps are going to be there, that is members of the 24 unions are going to have their reps there. The KMA are also going to have our reps there. But as for the legal action that will be taken against the offenders, all the offenders will be referred to the police for police to prosecute them.
Union leaders have welcomed the move by city authorities to ensure sanity in the city center. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaridonko, Kumasi.
And still to come in this bulletin, Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders expresses disappointment in management of current disruptions at the Tema port following rollout of Unipass. There is more in business after this break. Time now for business. Sandra Penny is here with the very latest. Hi, Sandra.
Yes, Aisha. Confusion galore at the Tema ports and
the freight forwarders.
Exactly.
What's happening?
Well, a lot of problem with the new system that has been suspended. So we'll be
the Unipass.
Yes, it's been suspended.
Take it away, Sandra.
All right. So we are celebrating 25 years of joy. My name is Sandra Esinamapen. I'm here for business. The Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders (GIF) has expressed its utmost disappointment in the way and manner disruptions in the port clearance system has been handled. The country was set to implement newly built single-window Unipass, but has faced initial challenges after existing system GCNet and West Blue had suspended services. The country in the last few years has gotten accustomed to electronic system of management at the port. However, the last 24 hours has set Ghana back to manual clearance, which stakeholders believe is impacting negatively on businesses, resulting in loss of some substantial revenue. Kwame Yanka has been speaking to Vice Chairman of GIF, Johnny Mante.
I'm sure that he's concerned. That's why he had to move to Tema today to see what's going on and to have a first-hand assessment of the situation on the ground. But like I told you, importers are not happy. I mean, I'm sure you'll be hearing from the likes of Food and Beverage Association of Ghana. You'll be hearing from the Gutes and the other parties. And don't forget, we also work with time. So once we come out and we are not able to fulfill the demands for which we've signed contracts with, it becomes a problem. It's become a little bit problematic. We are hoping that the blueprint. I mean, you can see the guys are still working on it. The customs guys are working on the blueprint. We hope that tomorrow or close of 9, we'll see that blueprint, the process flow in terms of the kind of manual processes that it's going to take. Of course, if you go to the port today, containers that had already been in are being gated out using the manual processes. I mean, they are taking account and they are recording all the processes and taking stock. We thought that we were going to go about 3 steps forward, but it seems that we have to start, or we come back about 2 steps before probably we can fly. We went to, most of the time, we went to MPS. We found out that the Deputy Minister of Finance was there. So we went there, he wasn't there. And then we had to follow him up to get in touch with him and to see exactly what was going on. And thankfully, the Commissioner was with him. In fact, the indication was that there were other members that were still holding discussions with the GCNet team. But it sounds as if it's going to take quite a while. In fact, what we understand is that there's a blueprint that is coming up. That's a new process flow, which is obviously going to take a manual form of shape until the Unipass systems comes into full flow. In fact, we can only wait and see what is on that blueprint or on that process flow, because we were expecting that by close of day we would have had these units running so that at least they run the power process which were promised. But having said that, basically, it's very disappointing to say the least.
Meanwhile, public policy think tank Imani Africa has described as unnecessary the decision by government to return to GCNet's management of trade facilitation at the country's port. The Ghana Revenue Authority, in a public notice to importers, disclosed it is engaging officials of GCNet to extend their management of import and export platforms. This was after it abrogated their contract and handed over the system to Ghana Link, which is managing the Unipass system. Franklin Kujo is president of Imani Africa.
This was completely necessary at all, and I shudder to think that the GRA itself is not asserting itself. I don't know whether because the GRA was in an acting position, but I think that the communication is giving too much away of total helplessness and powerlessness. They are on the ground, they are seeing the bonfires that are coming up all over the place, and they have to be able to speak to the matter. I don't think they are serving themselves in a good useful purpose, and as well as the public in a useful purpose by, trying to force something which unfortunately is not ready. So for me, capitulating now that the system itself wasn't ready and it was not supposedly end-to-end as it is an opportunity for them to go back and then do a proper introspection. This is not the time to toy with money.
Away from the port, Chief Executive of Cocoa Board Joseph Boahen Edu has urged cocoa farmers to strictly adhere to all safety protocols to stop the spread of COVID-19, receiving 150,000 cedis worth of sanitary products from 2 cocoa processing firms. The Cocoa Board CEO impressed on corporate Ghana to support cocoa farmers in these trying times. Charles Aite has more.
We've had corporate Ghana respond massively to the provision of cocoa farmers across the country. Today, we have seen the donation of 300 various buckets and various tissue papers and whatnot to cocoa farmers by Barry Coulibaly, a cocoa manufacturing company. Let's first hear from the MD of the company, Charity Sakite.
Today, we are all faced with very challenging and difficult times. We are forced to change the way we live, the way we work, the way we behave in many ways. And we also know that beyond the big cities, we have most of our cocoa farmers in the communities away from us. With the COVID situation, we know the preventive measures that we need to take. And one key measure is hands washing to prevent the spread of the disease.
As the cocoa season opens up for pruning across major cocoa farms in the country, Chief Executive of Cocoa Board, Joseph Boahen Edu, also receiving the items, made a charge to cocoa farmers to observe the various safety protocols amid COVID-19.
Particularly for our farmers, we want to aid them to wash their hands, and when they are doing it, if they can get warm water, it's also important. Not just to wash your hands with soap, but also even wash the face with warm water.
That's your business update for now. Sports news comes up shortly.
To every cloud, there is a silver lining. At least that's what Asante Kotoko fans will say. Welcome to the Sports on Prime. I'm Gary L. Smith. Now, the Kumasi-based club have confirmed paying the $240,000 fine imposed on them by FIFA for transfer irregularities. The Porcupine Warriors were given up to May 17 to settle their fine, else would have been handed a transfer ban internationally and locally. FIFA's disciplinary committee fined Kotoko for the illegal transfer of former Black Star striker Emmanuel Clottey from Tunisia's Esperance in 2015.
When the issue happened, yes, indeed, the supporters actually made attempts through the sector's leadership, led by Mr. Christopher Demir de Chris. They actually wrote to management wanting to assist the club if they are discussed. But, we all know in normal times at this moment in time, because of the COVID outbreak. So the chairman also felt that, okay, he would want to shoulder that responsibility. And when it is that the whole country is back to normal times, then the supporters can also contribute something to running of the club. So he actually paid $30,000 to Esperance, and then another $15,000, $525 to FIFA as a result of our failure to comply with the FIFA directive. So totaling $45,000, $525.
This brings to an end 5 years of back and forth. Let's refresh your memory with a timeline, shall we? So, in 2015, Kotoko registered Emmanuel Clottey despite the player belonging to Esperance. And the same year, Esperance demanded $240,000 from Kotoko for the illegal dealing. Kotoko ignored it. And then in June of last year, Kotoko transferred their own midfielder Kwame Bonsu to Esperance and demanded a $150,000 payment. Now, this is where it gets interesting. In March this year, FIFA threatened to relegate Kotoko if they didn't pay Esperance for for Clottey by the 10th of May. And Esperance then agreed upon negotiations with Kotoko to pay just 30,000 as balance of Clottey and Bonsu's deals. So FIFA also demanded 15,000 in legal fees. And as we are in April 2020, Kotoko's boss, Dr. Kwame Che, has paid the debt to close the case. Let's move on to other news. And what is the latest on the cancellation of the Ghana Premier League? So many people are having their take on whether it should be done like has been seen in France and in the Netherlands and also in Belgium. Majid Wari says he thinks it will be very sensible for the league cancellation to happen, says that every time he monitors the situation in Ghana, he can see that the COVID-19 numbers are increasing. So he thinks for the safety of everyone, the Ghana Premier League should be cancelled. We also have another administrator, Mickey Charles, they call him. His real name is Charles Kojo in team. He says what has happened in the Netherlands, France and major leagues should be a clear guide for our football leaders to cancel the Ghana Premier League. Moreover, the COVID-19 cases in Ghana also keep increasing, and we should do that and restart the league. So that's it for the first part of the sport. When I come back, we have more to do. Stay with us till about 8:30.
You're welcome back to Joy News Prime. Now, 13 Togolese and Beninese nationals, including a woman quarantined in Kumasi, are pleading with authorities to repatriate them. They are complaining about the poor conditions under which they are being kept at the quarantine center. The 13 people were arrested over a month ago for illegally entering Ghana, and though they tested negative for COVID-19, they have since been in quarantine. Among the complaints is the irregular nature of the food rations supplied them. Love firm Erastus Asari Donko visited them and has filed this report.
Negative. You? Yes. Negative. 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 Yes, negative.
The 13 foreign nationals were accosted at the racecourse market in Kumasi, accused of entering the country illegally, an assertion they deny. They were taken into mandatory quarantine and their samples were taken for testing for COVID-19. Though their results came out negative, they are being kept in this facility under police guard. They allege feeding has not been the best and life in the facility has become unbearable.
Yes, because the feeding, the first time we came here, they given us feeding for 2 times in a day, in the morning and the evening. So the college and we complained that the feeding is poor. But after then, we have been receiving the feeding for 1 time in a day. Sometimes we feel we don't have a food for all day. So these days, we have food only the evening time. So anytime the people, the immigrants and the police, they come here, my colleague will tell them, if we don't have food, we don't have food.
The only toilet in the facility, they say, is not suitable for all of them, and some have resorted to open defecation.
Yes, we have place, we have toilet inside the house, and we have the place we bath to, but most of us we bath at the back of the house at night. Why? Yes, because the toilet is, we are 12. So we are 12, so the toilet is sometimes dirty, but I come last time, but when I came, I am the one who cleaned the toilet because the place was dirty, so I cleaned. So we are 12, so we cannot manage to clean the place very well, so that's why some of them bath at the back of the house at night, but we don't have no problems of that, you know.
They want to be repatriated.
We want to go back to our hometown because we are not happy of living here because of we are not getting the feeding normally, and most of us we are farmers. Now we are in the rainy season, so we want to go back to our hometown for farming, you know. Yeah.
Medical sources say the group has been cleared by health authorities, but the Regional Security Council, Immigration Service and National Security will have to decide on the next line of action. Attempts to get a response from the RESEC have proved futile. Reporting for Joy News, Erastus Asaredonko, Kumasi.
And saying in Kumasi, Asokore Mampong Municipal Assembly in the Ashanti region says it will not need state security to enforce mandatory wearing of face masks in its jurisdiction, as task force and emergency teams deployed by the Assembly are already doing an excellent job. It says traders in 6 market centers in the area, as well as other residents, are in total compliance. My colleague Ohemi Teria has more in the following report.
Traders here at the Asokore Mampong market have complied with the directive. Each of them is in nose mask. Market Queen Akosia Poma is happy at the response from the traders. She is, however, unhappy patrons at the market are not complying with the directive.
Menkwale wojom henyina makami yenyante asia obi ehyebi obi so ho no betade amaka chense wo bedwom ayesrew faade ne hyewa no asokoma mpodwom ha titiriw de ye wa ha ne se empanimfo se ye so sika ne mu aye hohoro ye nsa mpa so ye diso ye so sika ne mu ane ye hohoro ye nsa ye ton ade nso ade no ye de ahyehye ya no na ye kasa nti ye nyina ya ye kuru ye tie empanimfo na asemu a ye gi sika no a ne ye hohoro ye nsa de ye ha opa kase ejina nipa na ye frifie abeto ade no
Chief Executive for Asokore Mampong, Alhaji Alidu Seidu, is happy about the trend, especially at public places. He says such level of compliance makes police military deployment redundant.
When the president speaks, it gets to the ears of all the citizens. The euphoria, the adherence is very high, and we are so much happy with it. And apart from the public places, that is the markets, the lorry terminals, the health centers and all the others, even those at home, they are having it on. Because we have emergency committee to see to it that all of these things are done. We also have the Municipal Security Council also in place. We also put together a task force moving from one end to the one place to the other, just to make sure that the enforcement is also adhered to and the people are complying with the way of manner. So currently, as I'm speaking with you, we have no problem with that. The level of compliance has also left us with the option of just using the task force, municipal task force, to look at these things, because you enforce it when there is resistance. But here's the case: if you come voluntarily, they are all having their nose mask on. So we didn't see the need to come with police or military enforcement before that is done. Once we've already done it, we are not there yet. If there were resistance, then you will be left with no option than to come with such.
The situation, however, is different at the Juso market, which is one of the most patronized in Ashanti region. Leadership of the Market Association is enforcing no mask, no entry directive at the facility. Only traders and other members of the public in nose mask are admitted. But it comes with a challenge: lack of public support. Kofi Asante is the secretary to the Ejuso Market Association.
If you don't have it, you can't enter Ejuso Market. Immediately we see that fellow, we walk him out, we question him. Why is it? If he's not having it, then he cannot enter the market. He needs to go back and have it before he can enter. It's not easy because they see you as part of them. So we may need the law enforcement also to support us to enforce this activity in our markets.
From Kumasi, for Joy News, Ohemi Teria reporting.
We continue our focus on hospital projects started by previous administrations but are yet to be put to use, even as government sets out to build 88 new district and 6 new regional hospitals. One of the abandoned projects in the Western region is the Takrady Hospital, which has an infectious disease center, 2 operating theaters, a recovery unit and staff accommodation started in 2014. Correspondent Nathalia Kwanza visited the abandoned facility and reports.
Behind me is an over 400 capacity accommodation project for the staff
of Takoradi Hospital, popularly known as the European Hospital. The project started in 2014 with support from DFID, and the UK Export Finance remains abandoned since 2017. This is just the first phase of a total project, with the second phase including an infectious disease center. But as you can see, the project is yet to be completed. So, as to whether the second project will be added or not, we are yet to find out.
Dr. Fred J. Otubua is the medical superintendent here at the Takoradi Hospital, though the hospital had received calls some 6 months ago after a declaration that all abandoned projects by the previous government was going to be completed. Dr. Otubua says the hospital is yet to see the contractor on site. In this pandemic, he believes the second phase of the project would have been very useful to the Western region.
The mitigating factor has always been accommodation. We are going to start life and then start it this way, saying that you have to find a facility for us to do that of advances in order to get a place to lay their head before they can deliver. So if the staff accommodation has been finished, it has gone a long way to enhance our health delivery in this facility. The second phase too, when you are moving out here, when you get to the roadside, you see that there's our casualty. That's the place we put up or earmark for the COVID-19. That will go a holding area and a treatment area. Today, I've seen that if the second phase had been carried on, there would have been a need to create that. We have a place already there, but unfortunately, that the project never took off from the ground.
The 90-year-old Takoradi Government Hospital over the years has seen little infrastructure and logistical upgrading. The hospital also has an abandoned emergency unit construction project which was expected to have been completed for the CAN 2008 football competition held in Ghana. I was ushered into the theatre of the hospital to have a clear understanding of the necessity of completing the project.
This is our operating room, where most of our major cases are done here. And as you can see, the theatre is not in the good standing order to work with, but then we are trying as much as we can to help with what we have. But then what we have so far is not the best. Our operating table is not in a good shape. They are all rusty, and then even the headrest is false. Also, we should have a movable operating lamp, which was up there, but it's no more there. So it makes it difficult for us, especially when we are viewing a cavity. So we can't see clearly. And this is a place where we have major ops and gynae cases. So we are pleading that we'll get a better view. Behind me are a set of instruments that we use. Our drums, they are all old, and so we need new ones. And then the sterile items. We need more of those things for us to be able to work and work well. We also don't have a recovery ward at the moment. So all our patients after surgery, we just put them on our mini corridor. That's the entrance you came. We have to monitor them fully until they are completely recovered before we take them to the ward.
For now, residents hope that as the government's promises of building some hospitals, this particular project and others will be completed. For Joy News, in Athalia Kwanza, Takoradi Hospital. Former Health Minister under the John Mills administration, Dr. George Sipayanki, has waded into the debate as to whether or not government should build its promised 88 new district hospitals. Dr. Sipayanki, who is also a former finance minister, argues procurement processes for the new hospitals alone could take several months. He's insisting government can focus on completing abandoned hospital projects concurrently with procurement processes for the new hospitals. He has been speaking to my colleague Giftiando Apia on The Pulse on the Joy News channel.
I don't see how realistic within 1 year any government, anybody, anywhere can build 88 district hospitals and 8 regional hospitals. It's not possible. But I think the president, maybe he means very well, but I don't believe that what he said could be done. I don't have any faith that within 1 year to build 88 district hospitals, 100 beds. You know, first you've got to procure the financing. To get the financing takes a process. It has to go and discuss the loan facility for whichever lender. You have to negotiate the loan facility, agree on the terms and conditions, go to Parliament, go to Cabinet for approval, go to Parliament for approval. Before you have to meet the pre-disbursement conditions for the effectiveness of the loan. And that will take you about 9 months to about 1 year. If that also needs some design of the facilities, the procurement of the items that you require to really get a functional health facility. So that's what I'm saying. While the president may mean very well in the midst of the pandemic, I'm not confident that that can be, that is doable. There are facilities that are close to completion, scattered around the regions. There are some facilities even in Accra and other places. They've gotten to a point whereby their mode of completion, the cost of their completion, will not be as much as putting up a new hospital all over again. So I'm saying, let's finish what we have already and put them to use. And then, as we begin to begin the process of procuring the funds, which takes so long, we can use available funds that you have now to finish them. During the completion of these facilities, you will be embarking, or you have embarked on the process to secure the loans to finance the new ones.
Some German doctors have been staging a naked protest online, posting pictures of themselves without clothes. They're protesting inadequate personal protective equipment as they lead the fight against coronavirus. PPEs have been a key issue raised around by health workers, not only in Ghana, but around the world in the wake of the pandemic. Our partners, DW, reports the German government is beginning to centralize the procurement of PPEs to address the concerns being raised by doctors in the country. Here's political correspondent for DW, Kate Brady, speaking with my colleague Gifty Andopia.
And basically the idea of the protest is to show how vulnerable they are themselves if they don't have the correct PPE. And at the moment, German insurers, health insurers, estimate that German doctors are lacking around 60 million single-use aprons. They're lacking as well in around the same number of disposable gloves. So in recent weeks, since we've seen the COVID-19 pandemic develop across the world, manufacturers of PPE here in Germany have been increasing their production capacity, but so far they have been struggling to keep up with the demand. And so this is a pressing issue, particularly in parts of Germany that have been worst hit by the coronavirus pandemic, particularly in Bavaria, for example, and also in western parts of Germany. And so far the government has responded, saying that it now plans to centralize the procurement of PPE. And this is extremely important for medical workers, not only in hospitals, but specifically as well for these general practitioners, for GPs, who we've mainly seen protesting in this naked protest online. As of next week, it's rather expected that we'll see more people going to doctors' surgeries again, as in large parts of Germany, people will no longer be able to be written off sick by a doctor over the phone, which is a special measure that's been brought in during the coronavirus pandemic. So we could certainly see more people going to doctors' practices as well.
5 shops at the Kaneshie Market have been locked up by environmental health officers of the AMA for failing to observe any of the protocols introduced to curb the spread of coronavirus. The action, according to officials, follows notices distributed to almost every shop in Accra in February, requiring them to comply. Nancy Mefajiradozi was with the Joy Clean Ghana campaign team and reports despite the wanton disregard for the protocols, there were some exceptions. She has details.
Move from shop to shop. When we get to a shop and they do not have any of the kits that we ask them to provide, we'll close the shop and then prosecute the shop owner.
The first stop was a frozen food shop. They had no washing facility, no sanitizer, and showed complete disregard for social distancing.
You have been informed that at the entrance of your business frontage, you have to provide a Veronica bucket here. You talk of washing hands. So where will they wash their hands? We want to see where your Veronica bucket is. Where is it?
I ran and call my boss.
So when it's come back, you bring the balloon cover.
Right now that you inform your boss. So for a period that we've been educating this thing, it's now that you have informed your boss.
The owner admitted he was wrong, but added that he had kept the sanitizer in his bag.
So for you not having the Veronica bucket at this point, at this time, no sanitizer, you have to come out. You have sanitizer, so where is the Veronica bucket?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, where is the sanitizer that you have? It's in your bag. So if customers come, they have to come to your bag to take it. Master, get the place ready. Get the place ready. Put off the electrical joggers all off and come out. We'll close the place. When you get
all the customers were asked to leave, and the shop was locked.
Take water to go and sell. Please go out. You, none of you is wearing a nose mask. Have you? Where is it? You buy the thing and you put it in your pocket. It means you see, this is not your room. So he's writing a notice for them, and it will follow out with a summons so that we take it from there.
We found a kitchenware shop. From a distance, we saw no hand washing facility, and the shop attendants were without nose mask.
So the law says that when we come around and then you refuse to provide these protocols, kits, we should take action against you. So as it stands now, we are going to lock your shop. Please, where is your mask? So you can't even find it. Carry the things inside for us to lock the place. Send the things inside. We are locking the shop.
A shop attendant nearby came to plead.
And then no smells no money. Veronica bucket way. Only Veronica bucket. Ah, yes, Veronica bucket is here. And it's your yanto
If you misbehave, I'll put you inside sales now.
Only to find out her shop also lacked hand washing facilities, sanitizers needed to prevent COVID-19 infections. Just opposite the shop is a beverage shop.
Have you heard of coronavirus? Have you heard of it?
Inspector Sitanga found a bucket and a bowl, which the shopkeeper claimed was set aside for hand washing.
Your hand washing basin at the front of the store here. Where's your Veronica bucket at the front of the store?
We want to buy some.
You don't have some? You don't have some?
But we are using this one.
Listen, you don't have some. Don't tell me you normally use. There is a prescribed Veronica bucket nationally that everybody is using. We didn't say put water in the bucket. When somebody comes, you take a cup and fetch and wash his hands. I take the bucket of the cup, fetch, wash my hands, put it down. B has come. Massa. No, it's not about the hand. Listen to the process. This thing is supposed to be on top, outside the store here, with a tap. We come and wash our hands underneath. It's not about you putting the cup there. How many hands pass through the cup? It means already there is contamination and transfer of the organism. Do you agree? So you don't say put cup on the bucket for us to come and take and fetch and wash hands before we do. Please, so come out, we lock the place, we prosecute you, and then others will emulate same. So please out from the store.
They were also instructed to close. Meanwhile, this detergent shop had all recommended facilities to prevent the spread of COVID-19.
We will say we are very happy, and we encourage that you should try and also educate your friends who are also selling.
This pastry shop were operating under unhygienic conditions, and they had a dirty basin reserved for hand washing.
They display for sale the pastries here, and this is the production room. Looking around, they don't even have any Veronica bucket or any hand protocols kits here. They don't have alcohol-based sanitizer. They don't have a Veronica bucket, and some of the workers are not even on masks. Should somebody have the virus in the hands, and the person come and wash the hands in the bucket, the virus will be waiting in the water. So if I come with my clean hands and come and put them inside this water, I'll pick the virus away. That is why we are encouraging the Veronica bucket. That flows the water down and you wash it down. Nobody will have contact with the water that you have washed. But look at what they are doing here. This one is not.
Just as the place was being closed down, we found an electrical shop with Veronica buckets. The owner had also marked an area to restrict movement of customers.
I ensure that I have a bucket.
You have
a bucket,
you
a
have
washing
your Veronica bucket.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which I direct every customer to wash before he comes, and I give the space as you can see.
Okay.
Nobody climbs up to meet me.
Okay, you've already provided. You provided this so that nobody will cross in. So there is distance between you and then the customer and you. Okay. And then what have you done again? Okay, fine. So you have your Veronica bucket.
Yeah.
You have your sanitizer. Where's your sanitizer? But the sanitizer shouldn't be inside. It should be close to where the hand wash basin is.
I thought that anybody that washes his hands is free.
Okay.
But I'm the only one that uses the sanitizer because I touch the money.
Okay. Fine, you've done well.
Meanwhile, Madam Florence Kuche is warning the train could stop at your shop next week.
In other news, Deputy Health Minister Dr. Bernard Okoboy has disclosed Ghana will partner other African countries to develop a vaccine to fight the new strain of cerebrospinal meningitis. 43 people have died so far from the current outbreak of the disease, which is said to be a new strain for which there is no vaccine. Dr. Okoboy explains the vaccine for the serotype X strain of TSM will protect the population and save lives. Joining us is Upper West correspondent Rafiq Salam has more.
Unfortunately, some people created the impression that we had a wave of CSM because all our efforts and our energy went on COVID-19. The science has proven that that was not the case. The science has proven that health workers in Upper West were not...
Dr. Bernard Okoboy climax of his 2-day close review working visit to the Upper West region is undoubtedly a moment of success in this grim cerebrospinal meningitis CSM crisis. 230 persons survived the horrible disease, but sadly, 43 others have not. He was sent to the region on the orders of his boss, Kweku Agyeman-Manu, at a time that fatality rate of the disease was around 15%. But he is returning with an impressive headline: CSM is under control.
Remember, I didn't come here on my own. I was sent by the Minister for Health. And he told me, Doc, make sure you don't get back to Accra unless the situation is under control. And as I speak, by courtesy of your hard work, the situation is under control.
Dr. Okoboy looks ahead to finding a permanent solution to put a lid on the new strain known as serotype X that is responsible for the deaths of 70% of the patients.
When you find yourself dealing with a novel or new virus and a novel or new bacterium, your attitude must also be novel. You must be dynamic. And that is what we have seen here. And quickly, we would also partner with our partners both in Africa and beyond to see how we can quickly develop a vaccine, be it a protein-based, conjugate-based, or polysaccharide. We want to protect our population so that we can save lives.
The medical doctors, whilst nodding and enjoying the commendations and encomiums poured on them by their colleague who turned into a politician, have few suggestions when adhered to will not only reduce the fatalities but the burden of health professionals and facilities in the region.
You know, at the municipal hospital, we see quite a number of cases being referred to us from the periphery. And unfortunately, most of these health centers don't even have physician assistants. At best, you have an enrolled nurse managing them. So from some of the observations we've made, one key thing that resulted in the high case fatality is not being able to pick up the condition early, to initiate treatment early. So it revealed a defect we have in the region with regards to this. So we'll appeal to your high office. We know that the regional directorate is doing extremely well. The office of the regional minister is doing what they can, but we would appeal that you use your high office to support their efforts to increase the number of doctors.
While the people wait for the development of a vaccine for the new strain, Dr. Okoboy asked for early reportage of the cases to the various health facilities.
Even when they get a temperature or a headache, they shouldn't wait for neck stiffness or neck pain. In fact, the doctors will tell you by the time your neck starts getting stiff, the thing has gone far. So just a headache and some neck pain should bring you to the hospital.
Senior public health physician specialist and acting programs manager, expanded programs on immunization, Dr. Kwame Amponsah Achiano, who accompanied the deputy minister, was cautious about the achievement.
Sometimes NMW can take you by surprise, and therefore we should also keep an eye, even though the epidemic curve shows that we are on downward trend.
CSM is seen here as more of a killer than the novel coronavirus. Health practitioners in the region were therefore engaged in fighting the duo. Now that CSM seems to be under control, they can now focus on fighting the unknown enemy, which has claimed thousands of lives around the globe with no divided attention. Reporting for Joy News, Rafiq Salam.
We're taking a break here on Joy News Prime to bring you more business news. Stay tuned in.
Hello again, and let's do more business news. Thousands of workers in the restaurant and pub businesses have lost their jobs as a result of COVID-19. That is according to the National Hospitality Association of Ghana, which has majority of their members drawn from restaurant and eatery businesses. Executive Secretary of the association, Theodore Zibile, has been speaking to George Wiafe.
It is that bad. There are no profit margins at all. And as long as the borders remain shut, it means you can't make profit. The business is truncated. People's investment, lifetime investment is at stake. And I mean, the sector employs over 700,000 Ghanaians. So imagine the numbers that will be jobless. School children whose school fees cannot be paid.
Just to butt in a little bit, you talk about 700,000, you talked about them doing a 10% capacity. So from your members, do you have any fair idea as in the number of persons that have been asked to go and stay home, or those who've been asked to step aside because of this challenge?
Well, we can give you a block number.
Rough estimates here, in 10% wise, how many of the workforce have been asked to go home?
You are talking, if I should just, give you my, on the spur of the moment, I will say about 25 to 30%.
Of the 700,000?
So far, if not more. I'm not able to give you the actual figures because we haven't done any research to come with a specific number, but that's what...
But from your members, do you have a fair idea about the pool of persons that they employ in terms of those who are in the pub and the restaurant business?
Yes, like I said, we are talking about 300,000, 400,000 minus the hotels. Okay, but if you add that to the hotels, you are in the region of 700,000 people.
More business news tonight. Parliament will tomorrow resume sitting to consider requests for government for tax waivers on importation of COVID-19 fighting materials. The House is expected to approve requests for extension of tax filing deadlines in the light of COVID-19 spread. Joseph Opoku-Gapo joins me in the studio for more. Joseph, thanks so much for your time. What are some of the other finance-focused issues that will be discussed tomorrow?
So mainly the issues having to do with tax waivers, as you rightly indicated. The indication we get is that even for things like donations that came in, there should have been some form of taxes that have to be paid on that. We got donations from China, from the Jack Ma Foundation, and a number of others. If those taxes have to be waived, it has to be done through the Parliament of the Republic of Ghana, because only them have the authority to give tax waivers. So we gather that those are some of the requests for various tax waivers that will be coming. Another relief that you recall, we got the indication from the finance minister on was that when it comes to the deadline for the filing of taxes, the duration of 4 months after the tax year ends has been moved to 6 months, and a number of other reliefs relating to when citizens can file their taxes and all. When that has to be changed as well, parliamentary approval will be needed, and so all of that will be laid before Parliament tomorrow as the main agenda in order for the approvals to be
So it's quite confused. We have a lot going into the COVID fund as of now. So what happens to those monies that have already gone inside now that we are yet to approve those waivers?
And so it does happen, particularly with tax waivers, that companies and even private firms are able to get the tax waivers, and after the said tax has been given by the Finance Ministry, then the Finance Minister comes to Parliament subsequently to obtain retrospective approval. So specifically with regards to that, it's a normal thing that happens, that for a number of firms that are operating in the country, the tax waivers were given by Parliament even after the activities were undertaken, sometimes a year, sometimes a year and a half later. So it's virtually following the same practice, which is how come we are seeing some of these handing overs being done even before Parliament is requested to give the necessary approval.
I see. I anticipate it's going to be a long day tomorrow in Parliament. So walk us through some of the processes the request will go through before approval.
It looks so. So what we can expect tomorrow morning is that the Finance Minister will come lay the various papers and documents with regards to these requests for waivers before Parliament. The request will be referred to Parliament Finance Committee, and then most likely the House will take a break for the Finance Committee to go meet, most likely over a number of hours, and consider the issues, deliberate on it, put together a report, return to the floor with that report, and then when the House itself approves the report of the Finance Committee, then the request for the tax waivers and the extension can then be deemed to have been given by Parliament before the House.
All right, sure. Thank you so much, Joseph Opoku-Gakpo is a parliamentary correspondent. We wait to see what that looks like tomorrow. In other news tonight, the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, assures importers of restoration of GCnet system at the port. Stay tuned for the details in the Business News Summary.
The Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, says it is consulting management of GCnet for the restoration of a GCnet GCMS services while the challenges with Unipass are fixed. In a statement, the Acting Commissioner General of the GRA, Amishadai Owusu-Amoah, said it has come to the notice of the management of the Ghana Revenue Authority, GRA, that customs house agents and declarants are facing some challenges processing their customs documents on the Integrated Customs Management Systems ICUMS. He added GRA, as part of the efforts to resolve these challenges, is having consultations with the management of GCnet for the restoration of the GCnet GCMS services. Mobile money transfers across different networks, also known as mobile money interoperability, have gone up by 358% in the first 3 months of this year compared to the same period last year. According to the Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement Systems (GIPS), the volume went up to over 5.12 million transactions from 1.11 million in the first quarter of last year. Ghanaian businesses bracing high cost of production in the wake of a coronavirus scourge have called on the government to focus on protecting them from irreversible losses. Recounting their new reality on Joy News' current affairs program PM Express on Tuesday, 4 business executives said although the government has shown commendable support since the business disruptions caused by the pandemic set in, there's room for improvement.
Brent crude made a significant $2.27 gain today to trade at $22.73 a barrel. This is a huge recovery from yesterday's trading figures. More on the numbers in the Commodity News Update. For your time tonight on Business. My name is Sandra Esinam Apenedu. Log on to myjoyonline.com/business for more business news updates. I'm back tomorrow, but do stay tuned for Gary Al Smith for the sports news.
Thank you for joining us on the second part of the sports. I'm Gary Al Smith.
And we're still on the issue of pay cuts to players' wages and salaries in the Ghana Premier League. The Chief Executive Officer of Inter Allies Football Club, Eric Delali Senaya, wants the pay cuts for players to be the last resort when all alternatives to meet their contractual agreement are exhausted. Mr. Senaya believes players have got dependents and the pay cut is not feasible.
Pay cut is not a fashion show that anybody should celebrate or follow. Our players are involved in a very difficult trade. They have a lot of people that depends on them. It's a career path they have chosen. Like any other industry, they need to be rewarded based on the agreement that was reached between the employer and them. But if it's extremely difficult for clubs to be able to pay their employees, and there's no other solution or there's no other way to get funding or funds to pay them, I think that would be the last resort. It's inevitable. But it has to be through negotiation. There must be a dialogue between the playing body and the managers or management to agree on some level of model to use. It's not like, hey, guys, you guys must take a pay cut. No, it doesn't go like that. It's something that will probably happen if our situation don't change early. We cannot be on pause for long due to COVID-19. Other jurisdictions, people have started returning to work. We hope that this can be resolved as soon as possible.
And in boxing, you may recall that this happened to Isaac Dogbe some time ago. This was the first image from when he fought Navarrete. This is what was done to his face. And then he got this again. And then this happened to him. And then this was the trending image from his beating. But guess what? Isaac Dogbe wants a part 3. He wants to fight the Mexican boxer again. And we just want to, in brief, analyze if it's a wise decision. Hans Mensah Andor is one of our boxing experts on the Joy Sports team. He joins us to give us some perspective to this. Hans, thank you for your time. In brief, though, should Isaac be even thinking of fighting Navarrete again?
That's an absolute no. I mean, there shouldn't be a third fight. Isaac Dogbe versus Emmanuel Navarrete must not be a trilogy. Why? Because you have to look at it in a historical context. There hasn't been a time when, where boxing has had trilogies where the first fight and the second fight ended in a manner in which Isaac Dogbe and Emmanuel Navarrete ended. Remember how the first fight ended? It was a one-sided beatdown. In the second fight, Dogbe's gone out to throw in the towel, as a matter of fact. And so there is no basis for a third fight. Again, it is going to be a hard sell. I mean, it doesn't make commercial sense. Not in the least. Nobody is going to pay to watch Isaac Dogbe, Emmanuel Navarrete. No controversy about the first fight. No controversy about the second fight. Nothing suggests that Isaac Dogbe will be able to beat Emmanuel Navarrete. And I think that Team Dogbe is looking in the wrong direction, actually, in terms of Isaac Dogbe's career. They need to be looking at other opponents. They need to be looking at opponents who help them to climb up the rankings, the WBO rankings, the WBC rankings. Looking in the direction of Emmanuel Navarrete is a wrong move. The thing about boxing is that the moves you make outside the ring determines just how far you're going to go in the sport. At the moment, Team Dogbe, by looking at Emmanuel Navarrete and the third fight, are making the wrong moves.
Hans, some would say that quitters never win and winners never quit. Why are you asking the young man not to, chase his dream or his ambition or his belief?
Look, I mean, we all have dreams, but the reality and the fact of life is that we are not going to conquer every single obstacle. In life, there will be defeat. You have to accept them and move on. Look, if Dogbe had run Navarrete close, maybe in the second fight, I mean, the conversation about a third fight would have made sense. It doesn't make sporting sense. The gap between Dogbe and Navarrete from the two fights are way too wide. It's like me telling myself today that I'm going to be training maybe in the next 1 year to go climb Mount Everest. People invest, years before being able to scale Mount Everest. Not everybody is going to be able to climb Mount Everest. Not every challenge is going to be surmountable in life. Sometimes you have to accept this is a challenge that I'm not up to. Move on to the next challenge. Dogbe's career going forward does not hinge on a fight or a victory against Emmanuel Navarrete. There are countless opponents out there. I have no doubt Isaac Dogbe, may become world champion again, but it is not going to come by beating Emmanuel Navarrete. Nothing suggests Isaac Dogbe is going to beat Emmanuel Navarrete. Let this fight happen 10 times. The likelihood is that Isaac Dogbe is going to lose 10 times.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Hans Mensah. Very succinct. He says, don't take that fight. You can read his full thoughts on myjoyonline.com in an extended piece also. That's the sport. Thank you for your time. Let's do this again tomorrow. I'm Gary L. Smith, and bye-bye.
Time now for the interactive segment, and you know how to join the conversation on facebook.com/joynewsontv, on Twitter on Joy News on TV, and on Instagram on Joy News on TV. And of course, you've been following the news of someone impersonating a military man, and I'm wondering, this day and age, people are still impersonating no other person than a military man. Well, we posted that on our Facebook page. A lot of comments are coming in, and number of comments, okay, that's the video there we posted. It's generated 205 comments, 290 shares, and 807 likes. I start with Kobe Ray. He says, I bet you I saw this guy at the Osu ShopRite Mall last week. He was dressed like the same way as he was arrested, with his pistols strapped in his belt instead of a gun holder. I'm sure if the military goes to the Osu Mall and cross-check the CCTV cameras, they'll certainly confirm my information. Yaberima, hey, no Quarifo says he's MPP branch member. I know this guy. I'm going through my pictures and I'll prove it here. And Jalil Robert says, Yabrima, we are waiting. Okay, so that's a reply to your Berima's comments. Evans Ajuman says, the spirit in the uniform is such that if you're not properly trained officer, it will expose you. Stephen Nukuno says, such guys is a firing squad or to be tortured to death to serve as deterrent to others. But we're in Ghana. The criminals are walking freely because they have some good money to pay. Well, these are dangerous comments unless you have some evidence to prove that. Well, Israel, I'm sure you're monitoring what's going on. People are impersonating military men. You want to become a soldier, just go for the training.
He thinks that if he's impersonating, because he's apparently impersonating a Canadian soldier, so probably he thinks that if he's doing that, that's safe, and he won't be caught. But I am looking at the story of the Kumu District Hospital being abandoned, and it was posted some 7 hours ago. It has 286 comments and 473 shares. Alfred Cobold says NPP are indeed nation wreckers, only interested in power, but not building the country since the days of Nkrumah, and the fathers and grandfathers of the NPP party have been like this. Okay, let's go to Ada Buara. Says, until there is specific and direct insertion of law in the Constitution, and that under no circumstances should a new government abandon any ongoing projects by the previous one, we shall continue to see these wicked and senseless wasted by politicians of our mega resources. So those are just some of your comments you have posted on that particular post. But that'll be all for now. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Israel Live, as always, anchoring from home, and to you, Aisha.
And my name is Aisha Ibrahim. Many thanks for watching. Up next is PM Express with Evans Mensah. You don't want to miss that. Enjoy the rest of our programs.